What's up, people? How's it going? Welcome back to Quarter Life Chit Chat, and this week I'm taking things all the way back to the glorious and the heinous era of my life, the university era. That's right, university where stress was high, grades were low, and bad decisions were the most absolutely necessary part of curriculum. I'm your host, Nav Walia, and I'm going to be navigating the depressing and the suppressed trauma from my university life and talking all about the epic academic failure, questionable midterm moments, and why sometimes the greatest decision you can make in life is to listen to your inner voice when it's telling you to quit uni. I didn't, but I'm hoping somebody that's listening to this listens to that inner voice. If your mind is telling you while in university that you should quit, listen to it. It fucking blows. Because all you'll be getting is A's and B's and D's. And just to clarify, by the way, when I say A's, B's, and D's, what I'm really meaning is A's and B's are the grades you're going to be getting. Not ass or boobs. But D's definitely stand for dicks. Because in university, every single professor you have is going to fuck you over on every single midterm by making a bullshit midterm that you can barely pass. So, let's get things started, okay? Today, I'm going to be sharing stories with you. The first one is going to be the story of my friend Jason getting publicly roasted in front of 150 kids. And then I'm going to tell the story of my friend Michael, who was higher than his tuition fees. So without further ado, let me unlock all the repressed trauma from my mind from university era and dump some wild stories upon you. Here's the first story. It was second year, and me and my friend Jason were enrolled in this class, Chemistry 213. And my friend Jason, he was a bit of a character. The best way I can describe him is imagine a Korean Twitch streamer whose goal is to become the next esports champion in Diablo. That's the best way I can describe Jason, okay? He wrote the first midterm, and I think he got like 55%, and he was excited that he passed, but ultimately upset that he got such shit grades. So he started really hard for the second midterm, and or at least he said he did, because when second midterm came around and everybody got their exam marks back, they were all holding their exams. I was holding mine. Humble brag, I got 95%. Jason was the only person that didn't have his midterm, and he was asking me and my friend, he's like, where the fuck is my midterm? And we're like, dude, I don't know. Everybody has their midterm. The professor gets on the stage, and he's like, okay, maybe the professor just has it. It wasn't in the pile. I'll ask later. Cool. The professor turns on the projector, and on the projector, we're seeing like a blank piece of paper, and she goes, is there a Jason here? And Jason looks at me, weirded out. I look at him, like there's 150 people in the class. Why the fuck are you asking about Jason? And he doesn't say anything. And she flips over the paper, and you see it's clearly our midterm with his name written on it. And she's like, I have the midterm for Jason. Can he please come up and grab it? Me and Jason and my friend are sitting in the very back. There's 15 to 20 aisles in front of us, and he has to walk all the way down to get the paper. He raises his hand, and he's like, yes, I'm Jason. I'll be right there. He gets up from his seat, and he starts making his way down to the professor. He's roughly 10 feet away, and the professor slightly moves the paper, and we see Jason's mark on the midterm. And my guy got 2 out of 45. How the fuck did this guy study for this midterm for 10 days, 8 hours minimum, as he said, and he got 2 out of 45? At first, Jason didn't notice that everybody can see his grade, and he's still walking, and then everybody is just like whispering, and some people are laughing, but there's a loud gasp in the whole room. And he looks back, and then he looks up where everybody's looking, and he sees his midterm and his mark, and he just stands still. He just stands staring at the goddamn projector in complete horrifying moment. He turns around to face me and just stares at me for 5 seconds, looks at the projector again. And my professor goes, Jason, I am truly impressed that you managed to get almost everything wrong, except the bonus points, which was the hardest question on the exam. And Jason just looking at the professor, and I turn to my friend and I'm like, why the fuck is this guy getting publicly roasted? He walks up to the professor and she gives him the paper and she's like, make sure you study hard for the next one. And he walks back to us in the most defeated way. He sits down and I'm like, dude, are you okay? And like people in the aisle right in front of us turn around. He's like, sorry, man, like that sucks. And somebody's like, hey, man, you good? Blah, blah. You know, the typical shit. And Jason turns around to me and he's like, how could I have gotten this mark? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. You fucking did it, right? And then he looks, he's like, but I study so much. And I look at his exam and I'm like, the answers were so horribly wrong. It's funny. Like, they were so wrong, I was genuinely impressed that he managed to write his name correctly. That's how dog shit his answers were. And I'm like, Jason, what did you study? And he's like, chapter 1 to 6. And I'm like, what? He's like, chapters 1 to 6. It was on the midterm. I studied those. And I'm like, bro, you studied the material of the goddamn first midterm. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you studied the material from the first midterm. That's my friend Jason, everybody. The guy who wrote the first midterm a month prior went home to study for the second midterm and managed to restudy the first midterm. He's like, that makes more sense. I was really confused why I keep getting the first midterm questions. I mean, I know there were some different questions, but I was just really shocked. I thought she was trying to help us improve our grades. What? That was my friend Jason. And as you can all see where this is going, that motherfucker failed the class. He failed that class and many other. And he was the greatest inspiration I had in life. Because all he did was play video games, not be happy, work hard to be good in school, yet somehow study the wrong material for almost every exam. It was genuinely impressive. But no matter what he would do, he was not able to fly high to achieve his dreams. But you know who did fly high in university? My friend Michael. And that brings me to the last story of the episode. My friend Michael, who was higher than Snoop Dogg. This story is one of my favorites. It was first year. Me and Michael are sitting beside each other before the midterm. And he's like, yo, man, I think I'm fucked for this. Like, I don't understand half of it, but I studied a lot for like 3 days. I think I got this. And I'm like, hey, man, like, it's okay. Like, we're all really nervous and stuff. And we go into the exam room, and he sits beside me, and he's like, okay, like, I just want to get this over with. And I'm like, sounds good, man. Sounds good. The exam starts, you know, he's sitting beside me and he's writing his paper, I'm writing mine. And I'm like probably like 20 minutes into the hour and a half exam. I look over and he's just staring at the clock. I'm like, whatever, like that's cool. I keep writing my exam, probably like 10, 15 minutes later. In my peripheral, I can still see that he hasn't moved a muscle. He's just staring at the clock. I look over and he looks at me and he just smiles and he gets up from his seat. And then he just leaves. I thought he was going to the washroom. He talks to the proctor and he's like, you know, whatever he says. And she's like, okay. She nods and he leaves to the washroom, I assume. He comes back and the moment he enters the classroom, you can just smell the strength and the scent of marijuana. And he comes sit back down and it's so strong. And he looks over. I look at him in bare shock. Because all I smell is weed. And everybody else, like, you can literally see everybody else head lift up and, like, what the hell? But the proctor, nobody really said anything because it's, you know, the exam's happening. Everybody's trying to fucking write shit. And he just looks at me and his eyes are bloodshot red. And I proceed to write my own exam while inhaling the disgusting smell of marijuana. And he's just hunched over on his exam. Okay? 5 minutes left, 2 minutes left, boom, time's over. The proctor comes to grab all our midterms, and he, you know, Michael is still hunched over his exam, is covering half the side of his face, and you cannot tell if he's writing exam or he's sleeping. You couldn't fucking tell. The proctor's like, exam please, and Michael doesn't move. And the proctor nods on his shoulder, he's like, exam please, and he hands it to him. And in that moment, I get a glimpse of his exam while he's handing it in, and I see that he's only written, or only answered the first question, and everything else empty. And the proctor looks at it, and he's like, and he flips through his exam. He's like, this is all empty. And Michael just looks at him and he just goes, dog, I don't know shit, man. I'm high as fuck right now. And the proctor's like, what? And Michael's like, dog, I'm high as shit right now. I can't do this. And the proctor looks at me And I am fucking laughing my ass off. And it's so funny. And the proctor goes, you know you're gonna fail, right? And Michael just looks at him. He's like, I don't even give a fuck, bro. I'm gonna listen to Snoop Dogg. And Michael pulls out his phone. He pulls out his phone and he literally presses some fucking keys on his phone and he starts blasting Drop It Like It's Hot on his phone. He holds it next to his ear and he starts walking out of the aisle. Everybody, the people below us have already handed in their paper. The exam's over. Nobody's writing anything. And everybody's either laughing or just looking at him confused, like, why is there Snoop Dogg blasting? And he's just nodding his head while moving through the goddamn aisle. And I'm laughing, and I get my shit. I grab my stuff. I go to the library, second floor, to meet up with my friends. And I'm telling about all the shit that Michael just pulled. And in that moment, Michael rolls around, comes through the door, and he's like, yo, what's up, Reyes? Michael's slowly walking towards us, and his eyes are somehow more red. And I'm like, Michael, why the fuck would you leave in the middle of the midterm to smoke weed only to not even write anything on the midterm? And he just puts his hand on my shoulder and he's like, Playa? He puts his hand on my shoulder and he's like, Playa? I thought it was a physics midterm, not a chemistry midterm. I'm like, what? And he's like, I thought it was a physics midterm, man. I didn't know it was chemistry. I was fucked. I was like, Michael, are you serious? And then Michael goes, I don't even know I was in chemistry. I'm like, what? He's like, I don't even know I was enrolled in chemistry, bro. I'm like, how could you not know, man? He's like, bro, it's our first midterm and I skipped every class. How the fuck am I supposed to know I was in physics midterm, chemistry midterm? And that's how I knew that Michael's a cuck monkey. And in the most cuck monkey way, he dropped out of university after first year. And that concludes one of many legendary first year uni stories. Like I said, I do have repressed trauma from university. Because like I said, I wasn't having any sex, but I was getting railed on the daily by my professors and midterms. But I always have a genuine blast every single time I think back to those days. It was legendary in a terrible way. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, if there's any American listening, if you're a Democrat, it's like watching Trump win. Okay? And if you're a Republican, it's like watching Biden speak. You don't know what he's gonna say, yet you're absolutely sure that it's not going to be English. And through it all feels like a complete train wreck. But a train wreck you're going to laugh at later. And on that note, this is the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to my stories. At the very least, I hope you at least cringed at the stories. University days are always fun to witness. But man, oh man, were they annoying when I was in it. Perhaps in the future I'll make more university stories. I don't know. Navigating my trauma wasn't all that bad. So perhaps some more chaotic stories in the future for you. But for now, thank you all for listening. Follow the social of the show. Tell your grandma to listen to the show. Tell your mom to reply to my DMs. And tell your dad that we have a date tomorrow at 4 p.m. I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for listening. Hasta la vista, folks. Bye-bye.